Hello, rich kids. Welcome to our space and to episode 12 in season 2 of the Hot Money Talks podcast. My name is Christine Isham Pepe, the money mechanic, and I help you fix your finances. I am on a mission to equip Africa's younger population with adequate financial literacy, advice, and strategy so they can journey to financial freedom and live life purposefully on their own terms and to the fullest, because money is no more a barrier. I want you to live your best life. The Hot Money Talks podcast is a series of honest, open, and transparent money conversations that will guide you on your journey to financial freedom. Here on the podcast, we believe 100% that financial freedom is possible with the right set of knowledge, the right amount of time, and the right circle of people. Today's episode is the first part in a series of episodes that will focus on the topic of multiple streams of income. Now, in this particular episode, we will be learning about the benefits of having multiple sources or multiple streams of income. Let's delve right into it. Now, according to research, an average millionaire or billionaire in foreign currency, of course, has at least 7 sources of income, with investing as one of them. Now, my question to you, dear listener, would now be, how many sources of income do you have? Or do you even aspire to have? Now, the importance of having more than one source of income or one stream of income cannot be overemphasized, right? Because having more than one source of income is a more easy way forward. Like I would always say, when you have only one source of income, you are living a very, very risky life. It is a risky way to live. Having one source of income, right? Very, very risky way to live. Every one of us should actually strive to have more than one source of income. Now, let's have a better understanding to this ideology, right? Now, the first thing we must understand is that there are 2 kinds of income that exist. We have active income and we have passive income, also known as residual income, right? So active income is what you do for money, like where you exert energy. Usually active income has to do with your job, your business, okay? Anything that requires activity, right? Requires your activity, requires your time, your expertise, your involvement. That is known as active income. Then we have passive income. So passive income, usually, this is used when you're talking about investments. Passive income has to do with you getting money and not having to exert as much energy as you would exert when active income is involved, right? So this is where we have, the idea of making money while you sleep. Okay. Now with passive income, right, you are able to build wealth. That's the thing you must understand, because passive income saves you time, buys you time as well, right? Because with passive income, you can still focus on your active income, which requires a lot of your time and energy, but still be earning money from your passive income. Okay. So now let's talk about the benefits of multiple sources of income. There are so many benefits, and I think I have about 14 benefits here to share with you. Why is having multiple sources of income so important? Now, you didn't hear me say multiple businesses, right? You heard me say multiple sources of income, because there are different sources of income, right? Now, the very first benefit of having multiple sources of income is the security that comes with it. Security. So when you think about the word security, right, you're thinking about being secure, right? You're thinking about, in fact, when I think about security, I think about like a wall around my house, right? To give me some kind of protection. That's what having multiple sources of income does for you. It gives you security, right? You have something to fall back on in case of emergency, right? You have something that protects you, protects your lifestyle, protects your family, protects the people you love. You have security, right? Then a second benefit of having multiple sources of income is, of course, the extra income to afford the life that you want. So I want you to close your eyes for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds and imagine the life that you want. In fact, as I'm recording this, I'm actually closing my eyes and imagining the life that I want. Imagine the kind of life that you want. When you see your ideal life in your mind's eye, what do you see? Now, you will agree with me that ideal life can only be attained and sustained if you have the income, right? Now, having multiple sources of income gives you that extra income to afford the kind of life that you want. A third benefit is it helps you to build generational wealth. So you know that there are some families in this world, right, that their children can never be poor. Their children can never be poor. Their children can never lack. Like their children's children will be ballers. Do you feel me? Like there are people like that. Now, when you delve deep, right, to people who have made money via honest means, you would see that they have more than one source of income, right? And that's why you see that a very wealthy man can give one company to one child, and that company will take care of that child for the rest of their life, right? So they have multiple sources of income. And so with multiple sources of income, you can actually build generational wealth. You can build wealth that will transcend you to your children and their children and their children's children. The fourth benefit of having multiple sources of income is you build wealth faster. Why? Because you can afford to put in more money into investments. That's into passive income, right? So we all know that you don't get wealthy by saving. You get wealthy by investing. But then we also know that you need money to invest, right? You need money to invest. Now, how do you get this money to invest? You get it from your active income, right? And imagine that you have more than one source of income, right? It means that if you only had, okay, so let's backtrack a little. If you only have one source of income, right? We're not saying you can't invest. You can invest, except imagine how much you'd be able to put into investments if you had more than one source of income, right? So you have income that's coming in from more than one place, and that allows you to put in much more into investments, which is the vehicle to wealth. Fifth benefit is you can afford liabilities easier. Make nobody lie for you. The rich buy liabilities too. And I remember making a post about this, I think 2 weeks ago or so. And I talked about how the rich buy liabilities. Look, the rich buy liabilities, facts, like they do, right? So that's why they can buy fast cars, right, and drive it only once in a while. you see people who even drive cars according to the color of their clothes, right? So they buy liabilities as well. But you see, the way they are able to buy liabilities and not go broke is that they have multiple sources of income. And many times you see that what they do is that it is the profits from their investments that they use to actually buy these liabilities. So let's take a practical example. I listen to Rob Moore a lot, the author of the book called Money, and he has a podcast. You should really listen to that podcast. Amazing podcast. And I was listening to one of his episodes, and he was talking about how the rich buy liabilities, and he was saying he at the time when he was recording that podcast episode, he had about 7 super fast cars, as he likes to call them. And he was just talking about how when he wants to buy a fast car for himself, all he needs to do is to take the revenue from his real estate properties. So he has like some apartment units, about almost 300 if not more. All he needs to do is to take the revenue from that, just the revenue from that, for maybe 1 month, and he can afford to buy a super fast car, and he won't go broke, because when he collects the revenue, his properties still remain and he knows more revenue is coming. So the rich buy liabilities, right? But they're able to do that because they have multiple sources of income. Sixth benefit of having multiple sources of income is diversification. You have money in different places. You know the thing where they say don't put all your eggs in one basket? Yeah. So yeah, you have money in different places, which again is a form of security. Because no matter what is going on, you know that bad as bad, even if this particular source is not really doing well, is shaky, it's going through a phase, you know that there are other sources where money is coming in from. And if that isn't security, then tell me what is security. Okay, then we have Another reason, which is flexibility. So with multiple sources of income, you can be more flexible about your decisions, about even the kind of life you want to live. You can be flexible about your time, right? Because you have money coming in from different places, right? So, I mean, you literally just live life on your own terms. Okay? Now, the eighth benefit of having multiple sources of income is you can retire on your own terms. So there's this movement that has been going on called the FIRE movement, and FIRE means financial independence to retire early. And basically the FIRE movement just talks about young people being able to attain financial independence so they can retire early. And this redefines the whole idea of retirement, because many times we assume, especially in the Nigerian setting, that retirement is when you are 60 years old and you have served the government or worked in a company for so amount of years, and then you now retire because you are now 60 or 60 plus and you can't work anymore. So you now retire and then you go back to your home or to your village, right? And then you just wait for your kids to take care of you or for your pension to come. Now, with multiple sources of income, you can retire on your own terms. You can choose to say, you know what, I want to retire at the age of 40, and I will. If I'm not mistaken, I know one time I was reading one of Robert Kiyosaki's books, and he talked about him and his wife being able to retire, I think either around the age of 40. Yeah, I think around the age of 40. Either their late 30s or around the age of 40. And I mean, that is financial freedom. Like being able to say, you know what, I have already set up systems in place for my finances that can afford the life that I want. And so I choose to retire. That's what multiple sources of income does for you. Next benefit is that financial planning will be easier. So with multiple sources of income, you can engage in financial planning and actually enjoy it. Why? Because you'll be able to say, okay, I know money is coming in from here, and here, and so I can afford to say, okay, I'm going to do this in the next 2 months, this in the next 1 year, this in the next 5 years. These are the goals I want to achieve, and this is how I am going to achieve them. Amazing, I must say. The 10th benefit is increased income. I should have even said this one as the first benefit, because yes, of course, with multiple sources of income, it's more money, guys. Like, it is more money. Like, bro, you're going to have more money with multiple sources of income. So yes, increased income is such a benefit of having multiple sources of income. Now we have 4 more benefits to go. The 11th benefit is that debt repayment is easier with multiple sources of income. Now, if you've heard me talk about debt, you would hear me say that there are 2 kinds of debt. There's bad debt and there's good debt. So bad debt is, basically fake life, right? Borrowing to live fake life. Borrowing to buy liabilities. Bad debts basically, right? So this is debt that you take, and you don't even have a feasible plan to pay back. This is debt that you take, and this debt that you actually collected is not helping you make any money, right? Now, good debt is usually debt that, you take to make more money, right? So this is where we talk about OPM, other people's money, and that's what the rich and wealthy do, right? They leverage on other people's money, right, to finance their different ventures and all of that. So debt repayment becomes easier when you have multiple sources of income, because when you have only one source of income and you're in debt, right, it's even difficult to save, because from that one source of income, you need to save. You need to take care of your expenses. You need to pay debt. Like, it's not like it's not possible, but imagine the progress you would make if you had money coming in from other places and you were in debt. You'd be able to sort out your debt faster and more easier because you had money coming from other sources. 12th benefit of having multiple sources of income is risk management. So you can manage risk better. Even if you make a bad investment or an investment just goes wrong, something just happened, life just happened and an investment didn't go well. Your life does not shut down because you have other sources of income. Your life does not shut down, right? So you're able to manage risk, mitigate risk much better when you have multiple sources of income. Next benefit is that multiple sources of income gives you a soft landing in case of emergencies, inflation, recession, and the rest of them. And I'm not saying that you may not be hit by some of these things, but you see, there's a difference between a soft landing and just landing. So think about this. Think about jumping from maybe a 2 or 3 story onto the ground without anything waiting to cushion you. The effects are not going to be funny. You probably break a leg or 2. But imagine that, okay, you were jumping from that, right? Or you were pushed, from 2 or 3 stories, and you were falling onto maybe a mattress or something that would boomerang you, or something that would cushion you. That's the idea. You might have some body aches, but I don't think you'll break a leg or 2. Do you get my point? This might not be the ideal example, but I hope you get my point, right? That with multiple sources of income, you have a better landing, like you have a softer landing when these things happen. Now, I remember that there was a time I was talking about, trying to share some tips about how Nigerians could really, really, deal with the whole of the inflation that we're dealing with and all. I know it's not easy on a lot of us, but you see, for people who were already working positively in the direction of their finances before the inflation or the hyperinflation, by the way, it's a hyperinflation hit, they had a softer landing, in all honesty. I remember that I was given an example about how bulk buying helps you, save money and also cushion the effects of, the inflation. And when you come to think of it, think about people who had already mastered the art of bulk buying when things like rice became extremely expensive. Now, what happened was that a lot of people who had been bulk buying had at least rice at home, right, to eat, while they were able to now think about how they would, be able to buy their next bag of rice. At least you were able to take care of yourself for a period before dealing with the hyperinflation. I don't know if this makes sense, right? So it gives you a softer landing. Imagine people who had emergency funds before the hyperinflation hit. We're not saying there's no hyperinflation, but some of these people had a softer landing. At least they had something to cushion the effects, to help them still meet a couple of their needs, to even deal with the change in prices because they had an emergency fund. Now, the 14th and final benefit, according to my list of benefits of having multiple sources of income, is that with multiple sources of income, you can achieve your money goals more quickly. Now, your life goals are connected to your money goals. Your money goals are connected to your life goals. I mean, if your life goal is to be a philanthropist, you need money to be a philanthropist. If your life goal is to travel to 36 countries of the world, right? It is money that is going to make that happen. So your life goals, they are attached, intertwined with your money goals. Now, with multiple sources of income, you will most definitely achieve your life goals, your money goals more quickly. Now, before we wrap up today's episode, I want to just share an illustration with you that always gets me every time. Now, think about a table with one leg. Just imagine there's a table with one leg on your left-hand side. And then there is a table with 4 legs on your right-hand side. Now, I want you to imagine your life as a table. And I want you to imagine the legs of the table as your sources of income. Now, the table on the left, right, is your life with only one source of income. And the table on your right is your life with at least 4 sources of income. Now, you do know that if the leg of that table on the left gets cut off, that table will collapse, right? But then, even if you cut off one leg from the table on your right, the table will be wobbly, but it will still stand. It will still look like a table. Now, my question to you would be that if you only have one source of income and that source of income is taken away from you, will your life collapse? Or will it wobble while you're able to find your way? Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Hot Money Talks podcast. If you have listened to this point, then it means you have gotten value. Don't keep it to yourself. Go ahead and share the link to this episode with someone you want to see win with their finances this year. It would mean the world to me if you took a few minutes to leave me a review in the comments section of this podcast so that others can see your endorsement and join the community of listeners who enjoy this podcast. Don't forget that new episodes of the Hot Money Talks podcast drop every Saturday, and you can listen to them on your favorite podcast platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and YouTube. Subscribe and follow the show on either of these platforms so that you are notified whenever an episode is released. Recommendations are powerful, so please tell your friends and family about this podcast so we can go on this journey together. To connect with me on other platforms, do well to follow The Money Mechanic at The Money Mechanic page on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. I hope most importantly that you will take action on your finances today. Sending you love, light, and a sprinkle of money in between.